Marcus Chen stood in the center of the great hall, his hands clasped behind his back. The ceiling stretched high above him, made of clear metal that showed the stars beyond. 12 alien beings sat in a circle around him, each one representing their species in the Galactic Military Academy. The young human kept his eyes forward, even though he could feel their stares burning into him. At 19 years old, Marcus had dreamed of becoming a starship captain. Now he might not even finish his first year at the academy. War Speaker Thalnos of the Drakmori leaned forward in his chair. The reptilian being's yellow eyes glowed with anger. His scales were deep green and each one was as hard as armor. When he spoke, his voice sounded like rocks grinding together. "Cadet Chen," Thalnos began, "you have brought shame to this academy. You broke formation during a combat exercise. You ignored direct orders from your superior officer. You put your entire unit at risk." Marcus wanted to speak, but he knew better. The trial had rules. He could only answer when asked a direct question. The Zalari representative spoke next. Her body looked like living crystal, and when light passed through her, it made rainbow patterns on the walls. Her voice sounded like wind chimes. "The simulation was clear," she said in her musical tone. 17 enemy ships were attacking your patrol. Your orders were to maintain formation and engage the threat. Instead, you broke away to rescue civilians who were not real. They were just computer programs. Marcus felt his jaw tighten. The civilians might have been fake, but the test was about more than just following orders. At least that's what he had thought. Commander Vex of the Vorthak clicked his mandibles together. The insect-like being's forearms moved as he spoke, gesturing at a holographic display that showed the battle simulation. "Your actions caused your wingmate to be destroyed by enemy fire," Vex said. His compound eyes reflected the light like black mirrors. "In the Hive, we understand that the individual means nothing. The group is everything. Humans seem unable to learn this basic truth." The other alien representatives nodded their agreement. The Aquari delegation made bubbling sounds that their translator rendered as approval. The Nexari simply glowed brighter, which Marcus had learned meant they were pleased. War Speaker Thalnos stood up, his massive frame casting a shadow over Marcus. The Drakmori were known throughout the galaxy as the greatest warriors. They had never lost a war and they never showed mercy to those they considered weak. "Humans," Thalnos said, his voice growing louder, "are emotional creatures. You think with your hearts instead of your minds. This makes you weak. This makes you dangerous to others." He walked around Marcus in a slow circle like a predator studying its prey. "In real combat, your emotional decisions would get good soldiers killed. You would risk 100 lives to save 10. You would sacrifice a strategic advantage because you feel sorry for enemies who would not show you the same kindness." Marcus could feel sweat on his forehead, but he kept his face blank. He had learned that showing emotion only made things worse with most alien species. The Zalari representative spoke again. "The mathematics are simple, Cadet Chen. In the simulation, your emotional response caused a 73% increase in casualties for your unit. A logical approach would have resulted in total mission success with minimal losses. But the civilians," Marcus started to say. "Silence," Thalnos roared. The sound echoed through the great hall. "You speak only when given permission." The War Speaker's eyes blazed with fury. "This is exactly what we mean. You cannot control your emotions long enough to follow basic protocol. How can we trust you with the lives of your comrades?" Admiral Kresh of the Vorthak stood up next. His species controlled 17 star systems through careful planning and absolute discipline. They had turned military strategy into an art form. "The human species has been part of our galactic community for only 50 years, Kresh said. "In that time, you have shown the same pattern over and over. You act first and think later. You make decisions based on feelings instead of facts." He pointed one of his forearms at Marcus. "Your species calls this heroism. We call it stupidity." The other representatives made sounds of agreement. The Nexari pulsed with bright light. The Aquari's tentacles swayed in their water-filled breathing apparatus. War Speaker Thalnos returned to his chair, but his eyes never left Marcus. "The Drakmori have fought for 10,000 years. We have conquered 43 star systems. We know what makes a warrior and what makes a liability." He paused, letting his words sink in. "Humans are not warriors. You are soft-hearted predators who have forgotten your place in the food chain. You lack the killer instinct that real predators possess. Instead, you waste energy caring for the weak." Marcus felt anger building in his chest, but he forced himself to stay calm. Getting emotional now would only prove their point. The crystal being spoke once more. The decision of this council is unanimous. Cadet Chen, you are stripped of all rank and privileges. You will be assigned to sanitation duty for the remainder of the semester. Perhaps cleaning waste disposal units will teach you the value of following orders. One by one, the alien representatives stood and left the Great Hall. They moved past Marcus without looking at him, as if he were already invisible. War Speaker Thalnos was the last to leave. He stopped directly in front of Marcus, so close that the human could smell the reptilian musk of his breath. Your species will never be more than servants in this galaxy, Thalnos said quietly. You lack the strength to rule and the wisdom to follow. Remember this day, young human. Remember your place. Then he was gone and Marcus stood alone in the empty hall. The young man finally allowed himself to relax. His shoulders sagged and he looked down at his uniform. The rank insignia had already been removed by the Academy's automated systems. Where once he had worn the silver bars of a cadet, now there was only empty fabric. Marcus thought about the simulation again. Yes, he had broken formation. Yes, he had ignored orders. But in those few seconds when he saw the civilian transport under attack, he couldn't just watch them die. Even if they were just computer programs, they represented real people who might need help someday. Maybe the aliens were right. Maybe he was too emotional to be a good soldier. But as he walked toward the door, Marcus made himself a promise. He would finish his time at the Academy, even if it meant cleaning toilets for the next 6 months. The corridor outside the Great Hall was empty. Word of his trial had spread quickly through the Academy. Other human cadets avoided him now, afraid that being seen with him would hurt their own careers. Marcus walked alone toward the lower levels of the station, where the maintenance crews worked. He had gone from being a promising officer candidate to a janitor in one afternoon, but something inside him refused to give up. The aliens might think humans were weak, but Marcus knew better. Humans had survived ice ages, plagues, and wars. They had built starships and traveled to other worlds. They had earned their place in the galaxy, even if other species couldn't see it. As the lift carried him down to the sanitation levels, Marcus stared at his reflection in the polished metal doors. He looked tired and defeated, but his eyes still held determination. The aliens had shamed him today, but they hadn't broken him. Somehow he would prove them wrong. 3 weeks had passed since Marcus's trial. Every morning, he put on the gray coveralls of a sanitation worker and made his way through the Academy's lower levels. He cleaned waste recyclers, scrubbed air filters, and emptied garbage containers. The work was hard and dirty, but it gave him time to think. The other human cadets still avoided him. When he walked into the dining hall, conversation stopped. People looked away or found excuses to leave. Marcus ate his meals alone and spent his free time reading technical manuals in his small quarters. Today was different, though. His supervisor, a bored-looking equerry named Blubglox, had given him a new assignment. You go to Restricted Wing 7, Blubglox said through his water-filled breathing mask. His tentacles waved lazily as he spoke. Clean diplomatic quarters. Very important. Very dangerous. You no talk to anyone.
You no make eye contact.
You do job and leave. Marcus had heard whispers about Restricted Wing 7. It was where the Academy housed representatives from the galaxy's most dangerous species. These beings were so powerful and violent that most civilized races refused to deal with them directly. The lift that carried him to Wing 7 required special clearance. Marcus had to scan his work badge 3 times before the doors opened. When they did, he found himself in a corridor unlike any other part of the Academy. The walls were made of thick, dark metal. Red lights cast long shadows everywhere. The air felt heavy, and Marcus could hear a low humming sound that seemed to come from the walls themselves. Signs in 12 different languages warned of extreme danger. Most of them showed pictures of various aliens with large red X marks through them. One sign simply said "Enter at own risk" in human writing. Marcus pushed his cleaning cart down the corridor, checking the room numbers against his work order. The quarters he needed to clean belonged to someone called Kethvar of the Ravak. Marcus had never heard of the Ravak, but from the security measures they must be incredibly dangerous. The door to Kethvar's quarters was 3 times thicker than normal doors. It had multiple locks and warning lights. When Marcus scanned his cleaning authorization, the locks began to open one by one. Each one made a loud clicking sound that echoed in the corridor. The door slid open and Marcus stepped inside. The quarters were huge, much larger than any other diplomatic room in the academy. The ceiling was 2 stories high and the furniture looked like it was built for giants. Everything was made of black metal and dark stone, but what caught Marcus's attention was the being sitting in the center of the room. Kethvar was massive. He stood at least 9 feet tall with broad shoulders and long, powerful arms. His skin looked like black armor plating, and Marcus could see scars crisscrossing his body like a map of old battles. He had 6 arms, each one ending in hands that bore razor-sharp claws. The alien's head was elongated, with glowing red eyes that seemed to look right through Marcus. When he breathed, Marcus could see rows of sharp teeth. Most terrifying of all, Kethvar was staring directly at him. Marcus felt his heart start beating faster. Every instinct told him to run, but he forced himself to stay calm. He was here to do a job, and he would do it properly. "Excuse me," Marcus said politely. "I'm here to clean your quarters. I can come back later if this is a bad time." Kethvar tilted his massive head to one side. He made a sound that might have been laughter, but it sounded more like rocks falling down a mountain. "You are not afraid," Kethvar said. His voice was deep and rough like distant thunder. "Most beings cannot even look at me without running away. Yet you stand there and speak to me as if I were just another diplomat." Marcus shrugged. "My supervisor said not to talk to anyone, but you talked to me first. I figured it would be rude not to answer." The giant alien stood up slowly. His full height was even more impressive than Marcus had thought. Kethvar could probably tear him apart without effort. "What is your name, small human?" "Marcus Chen, I'm a cadet here." "Well, I was a cadet. Now I clean things." Kethvar walked around Marcus in a circle, studying him from every angle. His claws clicked against the metal floor with each step. "I know who you are," Kethvar said finally. "I watched your trial. I saw what the weak species did to you." Marcus began setting up his cleaning equipment. He wasn't sure how to respond to that, so he focused on his work. "They called you emotional," Kethvar continued. "They said you were weak because you tried to save civilians instead of following orders." "Yes, sir." "They did. They are fools." Marcus looked up in surprise. Kethvar's red eyes were glowing brighter now. "The Zalari, the Vorthak, the Drakmori," Kethvar said, his voice full of disgust. "They think they are predators because they can conquer worlds and count casualties. But they are not predators. They are just very organized prey animals." The alien moved to a large window that looked out at the stars. "Do you know what the Ravak are, Marcus Chen?" "No, sir. I've never heard of your species before. We are what the civilized races fear most. We are true predators. We have conquered 17 star systems, not through careful planning or superior technology, but through strength and courage. When the Ravak hunt, we do not calculate acceptable losses. We do not make strategic withdrawals. We fight until we win or until we die." Kethvar turned back to face Marcus. "And yet even my people respect humans." Marcus stopped cleaning and stared at the giant alien. "Respect us? But everyone says we're weak and emotional. Everyone is wrong," Kethvar said firmly. "The other species look at humans and see weakness because you care about others. They see emotional thinking as a flaw, but they do not understand what it means to be a true predator." The alien walked closer to Marcus, close enough that the human could feel the heat radiating from his armored skin. A true predator does not hunt for sport or conquest. A true predator hunts to protect the pack. The strongest predators are those who will risk everything to save their own people. Marcus felt something shift in his understanding. "You mean..." "I mean that what you did in that simulation was the most predatory thing I have seen in years," Kethvar said. "You saw your packmates in danger and you abandoned safety to help them. You risked your own life for others. This is what real predators do." The alien gestured toward the door. "The Drakmori call themselves warriors, but they have never faced the Ravak in battle." "Do you know why?" "No, sir. Because they are afraid. They know that when the Ravak fight, we do not fight for territory or resources. We fight for each other, and that makes us more dangerous than any amount of technology or strategy." Kethvar sat back down in his chair, which groaned under his weight. The civilized species have forgotten this truth. They think that removing emotion makes them stronger. But emotion is what gives predators their power. Marcus thought about this as he continued cleaning. Everything he had been taught at the academy said that emotion was a weakness. Logic and strategy were supposed to be more important than feelings. "Sir," Marcus said carefully, "if what you're saying is true, then why do the other species control most of the galaxy?" Kethvar's laugh was like an avalanche. Because true predators are rare, Marcus Chen. Most species choose safety over strength. They choose survival over honor. There are billions of prey animals in this galaxy, but only a few real predators. The alien's red eyes seemed to glow brighter, and that is why I wanted to meet you. I have been watching the humans since you joined our galactic community. Most of your people have learned to act like the other species. They have learned to hide their predator nature. But not all of us? No, Kethvar said quietly. Not all of you. Some humans still remember what it means to hunt for the pack. Some still have the courage to risk everything for others. Marcus finished cleaning the main room and moved toward the sleeping area. As he worked, he thought about what Kethvar had said. Could it be true that humans were actually predators, not the weak, emotional creatures that everyone else thought they were? Tomorrow, Kethvar said as Marcus prepared to leave, you will return to clean my quarters again. And we will talk more about what it means to be a predator in a galaxy full of prey. Marcus nodded and pushed his cart toward the door. As he left, he felt something he hadn't experienced since his trial. Hope. Marcus returned to Kethvar's quarters the next day and the day after that. Each time, the massive Ravak would talk to him while he worked. Marcus learned that Kethvar was not just a diplomat, but a war hunter, one of the highest ranks in Ravak society. My people sent me here to study the other species, Kethvar explained one afternoon. We wanted to understand how so many weak races could control so much territory. What we discovered surprised us. Marcus was cleaning the large windows that looked out at the stars. What did you discover? We discovered that being weak can be an advantage if you are smart about it. The prey species work together because they are afraid. They build big fleets and make careful plans because they know they cannot win through strength alone. Kethvar stood up and walked to another window, but they also discovered something else. They learned that predators like the Ravak are dangerous but predictable. We fight for territory and resources. We can be bargained with if the price is right. And humans are different. Humans are very different, Kethvar said, his red eyes glowing. You do not fight for territory. You do not fight for resources. You fight for ideas. You fight for principles. You fight for each other. This makes you much more dangerous than species like mine. Marcus stopped cleaning and looked at the giant alien. But we've never conquered any star systems. We barely have a dozen colonies. Conquest is not the only way to measure strength, Kethvar replied. Tell me, Marcus Chen, what would happen if someone attacked one of your colonies? Marcus thought about it. Every human ship in the area would come to help. The military would send reinforcements. Other colonies would send supplies and volunteers. Exactly. And what if the attackers threatened to destroy the colony, unless humans gave up something valuable? We would never give up. We would fight until we won or died trying. Kethvar nodded slowly. This is why the other species fear humans, even though they will not admit it. You cannot be defeated through normal means. You cannot be bargained with when your people are threatened. You become more dangerous when cornered, not less. Over the following days, Kethvar taught Marcus about something called the hunt bond. It was an ancient concept that most civilized species had forgotten. Long ago, Kethvar explained, before there were starships and energy weapons, predators lived in packs. The strongest members of the pack were not always the biggest or the fastest. They were the ones who would risk everything to protect the others. Marcus was organizing Kethvar's collection of weapons, which took up an entire wall of the quarters. Each weapon had a story, and many were trophies from battles fought across the galaxy. The hunt bond, Kethvar continued, is the connection between true predators. It does not matter what species they come from. If they share the same hunting spirit, they are brothers. Do the Ravak still practice this? Some do. The old ways are not completely forgotten. But most of my people have become like the others. They hunt for profit now, not for the pack. Kethvar picked up a curved blade that gleamed in the red light. I have traveled to many worlds, Marcus Chen. I have met warriors from dozens of species. Most of them think that being strong means being able to kill efficiently. They measure their worth by how many enemies they have defeated. The alien tested the blade's edge with one of his claws. But I have learned that the strongest predators are those who know when not to kill. Those who will sacrifice themselves to save others. Those who fight not because they enjoy violence, but because someone must protect the innocent. Marcus thought about his trial again. Is that why you've been talking to me? Because of what I did in the simulation? Partly, Kethvar said. But also because of how you act around me. Most beings, even trained soldiers, cannot hide their fear when they meet a Ravak. You show respect but not fear. You treat me as a person, not a monster. Should I be afraid of you? Kethavar's laugh rumbled through the room. Oh yes, Marcus Chen, you should be terrified. I could kill you in a dozen different ways before you could blink. My claws can cut through steel and my strength could break every bone in your body. The alien set down his weapon and looked directly at Marcus. But you are not afraid because you understand something that the others do not. You know that predators do not hunt their own pack. Marcus felt a strange sensation as if something important was about to happen. Are you saying that humans and Ravak are packmates? I am saying that you, Marcus Chen, hunt with the spirit of a true predator. And among my people, that makes you family. Kethvar walked to a cabinet and removed a small, ornate box. Inside was a knife unlike anything Marcus had ever seen. The blade seemed to absorb light, and the handle was carved with symbols that hurt to look at directly. This is a hunt blade, Kethvar said reverently. It has been in my family for 8 generations. My great-grandfather carried it when he conquered the Nexari homeworld. My father used it to lead the assault on Kepler Station. Marcus stared at the weapon. He could feel power radiating from it as if it were alive. Among the Ravak, Kethvar continued, there is an ancient ritual. When 2 predators recognize each other as packmates, they share blood and vow to hunt together. It is called the Hunt Bond Ceremony. The alien extended the knife toward Marcus. I offer you this bond, Marcus Chen. Not as a human to a Ravak, but as one predator to another. Marcus hesitated. I don't understand. What does this mean? It means that you are my hunt brother. It means that your enemies are my enemies. It means that if you are threatened, I will come to your aid no matter the distance or the danger. Kethvar drew the blade across his own palm. Dark red blood welled up and dripped onto the floor. It also means that I trust you to do the same for me. Marcus looked at the knife, then at Kethvar's bleeding hand. This was not something he had expected when he started cleaning alien quarters 3 weeks ago. What about the Academy? What about the other species? Won't they be angry if they find out? Let them be angry, Kethvar said firmly. The hunt bond is older than their laws. It is older than their civilizations. They cannot break what they do not understand. Marcus thought about his trial, about the shame and isolation he had endured. He thought about the other human cadets who avoided him, and the alien instructors who treated him like a failed experiment. Then he thought about what Kethvar had taught him. Maybe he wasn't a failure. Maybe he was exactly what he was supposed to be. Marcus took the knife and drew it across his palm. The blade was so sharp that he barely felt it cut. His blood mixed with Kethvar's on the metal floor. I accept the hunt bond, Marcus said formally. Kethvar placed his massive hand over Marcus's much smaller one. Then you are my brother, Marcus Chen. In the old tongue of my people, you are Kethmar, the pack hunter. The alien's red eyes glowed brighter. The weak species think they have shamed you, but they have done something else entirely. They have freed you from their rules. They have given you the chance to remember what you really are. As they stood there, blood mixing between their hands, Marcus felt something change inside him. The shame and doubt that had weighed on him for weeks began to fade. In its place was something stronger, purpose. What happens now? Marcus asked. Kethvar smiled, showing his razor-sharp teeth. Now we hunt, my brother. The galaxy is full of prey that thinks it rules over predators. It is time they learned how wrong they are. Marcus looked down at his bleeding hand, then back at Kethvar's glowing eyes. For the first time since his trial, he felt like he belonged somewhere. When do we start? Soon, Kethvar said. Very soon. The hunt bond has been sworn, and word of it will spread to other predator species. They will want to meet the human who earned a Ravak's respect. The alien moved to his weapons collection and selected another blade. Smaller than the hunt blade, but still deadly looking. Carry this, Kethvar said, offering the weapon to Marcus. It is time you stopped pretending to be what they want you to be. It is time to show them what a real predator looks like. Marcus took the blade and felt its weight in his hand. It felt right, as if it belonged there. Outside the window, the stars continued their eternal dance, unaware that something had changed in the galaxy. A new alliance had been born, and the civilized species would never see it coming. The emergency alarm started screaming at 0347 hours, jolting Marcus awake in his small quarters. Red lights flashed in the corridors as cadets and instructors rushed toward their duty stations. Marcus had been at the academy long enough to know that this was not a drill. He quickly put on his maintenance coveralls and headed for the sanitation department. During emergencies, all personnel had assigned positions, even the cleaning crew. But when he arrived at the maintenance bay, Blubglox was nowhere to be found. Instead, he found Kethvar waiting for him, along with 5 other aliens that Marcus had never seen before. They were all massive, all dangerous-looking, and all staring at him with glowing eyes of different colors. Kethvar said, using the name he had given Marcus during the Huntbond ceremony. "We have a situation." One of the other aliens stepped forward. This one looked like a cross between a wolf and a bear, with silver fur and claws as long as Marcus's fingers. When he spoke, his voice was a deep growl. "I am Fenris of the Lupani. Word of your hunt bond has reached my pack. We have come to meet the human who earned a Ravak's respect." Another alien, this one covered in what looked like living metal scales, nodded toward Marcus. "Shextai of the Metallari. Your reputation spreads quickly, young predator." Marcus looked around at the group. Each alien was from a different species, but they all had the same dangerous aura that surrounded Kethvar. "What's happening?" Marcus asked. "Why are the alarms going off?" Kethvar activated a holographic display that showed a star map. One system was flashing red far out on the galaxy's rim. "Haven's Rest," Kethvar said grimly. "A mining colony with 50,000 inhabitants. They sent out a distress call 6 hours ago." The hologram zoomed in to show a blue-green planet surrounded by strange, dark shapes that seemed to move on their own. "The Void Swarm," Fenris growled. "Parasites that consume entire worlds. They turn living beings into more of themselves. Very dangerous." Marcus had heard whispers about the Void Swarm during his classes. They were one of the few threats that all the galactic species feared equally. "The Academy is mobilizing its fleet," Kethvar continued. "But there is a problem. The Academy Council has decided that the colony cannot be saved." "What do you mean?" Marcus asked. Shextai's metal scales shifted color from silver to dark red. "They plan to use orbital bombardment to stop the swarm from spreading. They will destroy the planet and everyone on it." Marcus felt anger rising in his chest. "But that's 50,000 people. There has to be another way." "There is," said another voice. Marcus turned to see a being that looked like a living shadow with glowing purple eyes. "I am Vexthul of the Umbrari. We have studied this situation carefully." The shadow being gestured to the hologram. "A ground assault could evacuate most of the colonists while predator forces hold the swarm back. But it would be extremely dangerous." "The Academy will not approve such a plan," Kethvar said. "They consider it too risky. Better to sacrifice 50,000 lives than risk losing their precious fleet." Marcus stared at the hologram, watching the dark shapes of the Void Swarm spreading across the planet's surface. Somewhere down there, families were hiding in shelters hoping for rescue that would never come. "Can we stop them?" Marcus asked. "Can we save those people?" Fenris's wolf-like features twisted into what might have been a smile. "Now you sound like a true predator. Yes, we can save them, but only if you invoke your rights as a hunt brother." "What rights?" Kethvar stepped closer to Marcus. "Ancient predator law states that where hunt brothers go, the pack follows. If you demand to be part of the rescue mission, I have the right to come with you. And if I come, they come." He gestured to the other aliens. 6 of the galaxy's most dangerous predator species, all sworn to the old laws. The Academy cannot legally refuse us. "But I'm just a sanitation worker," Marcus protested. "I don't have any authority." "You have more authority than you know," Vexthul said, his shadow form shifting. "The hunt bond makes you equal to any Ravak war hunter. In predator law, that rank supersedes Academy regulations." Marcus looked around at the group of deadly aliens, all waiting for his decision. A few weeks ago, he had been a promising cadet. Then he had become a disgraced janitor. Now he was apparently some kind of predator royalty. "If we do this," Marcus said slowly, "what are our chances of success?" Shextai's scales flickered through several colors. "Honestly, very low. The Void Swarm is designed to counter organized military tactics. They adapt quickly to weapons and strategies. But," Fenris added, "they have never faced a coordinated predator pack. We do not fight like the civilized species. We do not use their predictable methods." Kethvar activated another display, this one showing the Academy's main hangar bay. "The fleet is preparing to depart in 2 hours. If we are going to act, it must be now." Marcus thought about the trial that had brought him to this moment. The Academy Council had called him emotional and weak for trying to save simulated civilians. Now real people needed saving, and the same council was choosing the easy solution over the right one. What do I need to do? Marcus asked. Come with us to the briefing room, Kethvar said. Invoke your right as a hunt brother to participate in the mission. The Academy cannot refuse without insulting 6 predator species simultaneously. And that would be bad? Fexthol's laugh sounded like wind through a graveyard. Very bad. The civilized species may outnumber us, but they still fear us. Starting a war with all the predator species at once would be unwise. The group moved through the Academy's corridors, drawing stares from everyone they passed. Marcus walked in the center, surrounded by aliens that most people crossed the galaxy to avoid. When they reached the main briefing room, they found chaos. Dozens of Academy officers were shouting orders and updating tactical displays. At the center of it all stood Admiral Kresh of the Vorthak, coordinating the fleet deployment. War Speaker Thalnos was there too, his reptilian features twisted with anger as he argued with other officers about targeting priorities. The room fell silent when Kethvar entered, followed by his pack of predators. What is the meaning of this? Admiral Kresh demanded, his forearms gesturing wildly. This is a restricted briefing. I invoke my rights under Predator Law Article 7, Marcus said loudly, surprised by the strength in his own voice. As a sworn hunt brother to Kethvar of the Ravak, I demand inclusion in any mission that involves the protection of civilian populations. The room erupted in angry voices. Several officers started shouting at once, but Admiral Kresh raised one of his arms for silence. You have no such rights, Kresh said coldly. You are a disgraced cadet assigned to sanitation duty. Kethvar stepped forward, his massive frame dwarfing the insect-like admiral. He has every right. The hunt bond was sworn according to ancient law. If you deny his request, you deny mine as well. And mine, Fenris growled. And mine, Shextai added, his scales now glowing bright red. One by one, the other Predator representatives voiced their support. The Academy officers looked increasingly uncomfortable as they realized what they were facing. War Speaker Thalnos stepped forward, his yellow eyes blazing with fury. This is ridiculous. We cannot allow emotional decisions to override military necessity. Military necessity? Marcus said, finding his courage. You're talking about murdering 50,000 innocent people. We are talking about preventing the Void Swarm from spreading to other worlds, Thalnos shot back. Sometimes sacrifices must be made for the greater good. No, Marcus said firmly. There's always another way. We just have to be brave enough to find it. He looked around the room at all the Academy officers, most of whom were avoiding his gaze. I know you think humans are weak and emotional. I know you think we make bad soldiers because we care too much. But maybe caring is exactly what makes us good soldiers. Marcus gestured toward the tactical display showing Haven's Rest. Those aren't just numbers on a screen. They're families, children, people who trusted the galactic community to protect them. Emotional nonsense, Thalnos hissed. No, Kethvar said quietly, but his voice carried throughout the room. It is Predator wisdom. The young hunt brother understands what you have forgotten. The Ravak's red eyes swept across the assembled officers. True strength comes from protecting the pack, not from calculating acceptable losses. This is why predator species will always be superior to prey species, no matter how advanced your technology becomes. Admiral Kresh looked around the room, clearly weighing his options. Finally, he sighed with all 4 sets of lungs. Very well, he said reluctantly. The Predator representatives may join the mission, but they will follow Academy protocols and chain of command. Agreed, Marcus said quickly, before any of the others could object. As the briefing continued, Marcus found himself studying the tactical displays with new eyes. The Academy's plan was methodical and safe, designed to minimize risk to their own forces. But it was also predictable, exactly the kind of strategy that the Void Swarm had evolved to counter. Marcus looked at his hunt brothers, all of them clearly thinking the same thing. It was time to show the galaxy what real predators could do. The fleet dropped out of hyperspace 6 hours later, emerging in the Haven's Rest system to find a nightmare waiting for them. The planet looked like it was covered in black veins. The Void Swarm had spread across continents, consuming everything in its path. Even from orbit, Marcus could see the dark tendrils reaching up toward space, as if the planet itself had become a living predator. Sensors show approximately 37,000 life signs remaining, reported the ship's tactical officer, a nervous-looking Aquari. They appear to be concentrated in 12 major population centers. Admiral Kresh studied the displays from his command chair. Begin orbital bombardment sequence. Target the largest swarm concentrations first. Wait, Marcus said, stepping forward. Around him, his hunt brothers moved into position, their combined presence filling the bridge with tension. The bombardment will kill the survivors too, Marcus continued. We need to extract them first. War Speaker Thalnos turned in his chair, his yellow eyes glowing with anger. The risk is too great. If the swarm reaches our ships, it could spread throughout the galaxy. Then we don't let it reach our ships, Marcus said simply. We go down there and hold the line while the civilians evacuate. The bridge fell silent except for the hum of ship systems. Several Academy officers exchanged glances, clearly thinking that the human had lost his mind. You want to land troops on a planet overrun by the Void Swarm? Admiral Kresh asked incredulously. It would be suicide. Kethvar stepped up beside Marcus. Not suicide. A hunt, Fenris growled his agreement. The swarm fights like prey. They overwhelm through numbers and adaptation, but they have never faced a true predator pack. What are you suggesting? Kresh asked, though Marcus could tell the Admiral already knew he wouldn't like the answer. Marcus activated the tactical display and pointed to the largest concentration of survivors. New Haven City, 4,300 people trapped in underground shelters. The swarm has surrounded them but hasn't broken through yet. He traced a path on the hologram. We land here, establish a perimeter and hold it while evacuation shuttles extract the civilians. Then we move to the next city. The mathematics are impossible, the Zalari representative said, her crystal form pulsing with cold light. 7 beings against millions of swarm entities. The probability of success is less than 0.01%. Shextay's metallic scales shifted to a deep bronze color. Your mathematics assume we fight like you. They do not account for predator tactics. Predator tactics? Thalnos scoffed. What predator tactics could possibly work against the Void Swarm? Marcus smiled grimly. The same tactics that work against any prey species. We don't fight their fight. We make them fight ours. He turned to address the entire bridge. The swarm is designed to counter organized military strategy. They adapt to weapons, they learn from tactics, they overwhelm through superior numbers, but they're still just prey animals trying to survive. Kethvar nodded approvingly, and predators have been hunting prey for millions of years. We know their weaknesses. Marcus began outlining his plan, and with each word the Academy officers looked more horrified. The swarm spreads by consuming organic matter, Marcus explained. But what if we give them something they can't consume? Something that fights back? Vexthul's shadow form rippled with what might have been amusement. The young Hunt brother learns quickly. 2 hours later, Marcus found himself in the cargo hold of a military transport, suited up in combat armor that had been hastily modified to fit a human. Around him, his Hunt brothers made final preparations for what everyone agreed was an insane mission. Remember, Marcus said over the comm system, we're not trying to win a war. We're buying time for evacuations. Hit hard, hit fast, and don't get surrounded. The transport shuddered as it entered the planet's atmosphere. Through the viewports, Marcus could see the black tendrils of the swarm reaching up toward them like grasping fingers. 30 seconds to drop zone, the pilot announced. I'll circle back for pickup in exactly 1 hour. If you're not at the extraction point, I'm leaving without you. Understood, Marcus replied. He looked at his Hunt brothers. These deadly aliens who had chosen to follow a disgraced human cadet into almost certain death. Any regrets? He asked. Fenris's wolfish grin showed far too many teeth. Only that we waited so long to hunt together. The transport's cargo doors opened and they dropped into hell. The landing zone was a nightmare of twisted organic matter and writhing tentacles. The moment their boots hit the ground, the swarm began converging on their position from all directions. But Marcus and his pack were ready. Instead of forming a defensive perimeter like Academy doctrine demanded, they scattered in different directions, each one drawing part of the swarm away from the others. Marcus ran toward the city center, his weapon firing continuously at the black shapes pursuing him, but he wasn't trying to kill them all. He was leading them into a trap. The abandoned shopping district had been his target from the beginning. Lots of enclosed spaces, multiple levels, and most importantly, structural supports that could be brought down with the right application of explosives. As the swarm poured into the district after him, Marcus triggered the charges that Kethvar had helped him place. The buildings came down in a cascade of concrete and steel, burying thousands of swarm entities under tons of rubble. One down. he reported over the comm. How are the others doing? Fenris has led his pack into the industrial sector, Kethvar replied. Shextai is using the power plant as a choke point. Fexthul has disappeared entirely, but swarm entities keep dying in the warehouse district. Marcus checked his tactical display. The evacuation shuttles were making good progress, but they still needed more time. Phase 2, Marcus announced. Let's show them what happens when predators get creative. The next part of the plan was even more dangerous. Instead of running from the swarm, Marcus and his hunt brothers began hunting them. They used every dirty trick that millions of years of evolution had taught their species. Ambush tactics, hit-and-run attacks, psychological warfare, and most importantly, they made the swarm afraid. Fear was something the Void Swarm had never experienced before. They were used to being the predators, overwhelming their prey through sheer numbers and relentless pursuit. But now they were being hunted by something that fought back with intelligence and cunning. Marcus watched through his helmet. Display as swarm entities began hesitating before pursuing isolated targets. They were learning to be cautious, and caution made them less effective. Evacuation 70% complete, came the report from orbit. 4 more sites to go, but the swarm was adapting too. They began concentrating their forces, creating massive formations that even predator tactics couldn't easily break. Time for Phase 3, Marcus announced, switching to a private channel that connected him only to his hunt brothers. Are you certain about this? Kethvar asked. Once we begin, there will be no turning back. Marcus looked at the tactical display showing thousands of swarm entities converging on their position. I'm certain. What happened next became legend among predator species throughout the galaxy. Instead of retreating or finding defensive positions, the 7 Hunt brothers charged directly into the heart of the swarm. They fought with a coordination that seemed impossible, each one instinctively knowing where the others would be. Marcus found himself moving in perfect harmony with aliens he had known for only days, as if they had been hunting together for years. The swarm tried to adapt, tried to counter their tactics, but predator instincts were older than adaptation. They were written into the very DNA of every species that had ever survived by hunting. When the final evacuation shuttle lifted off from Haven's Rest, it carried 36,712 survivors. Marcus and his hunt brothers were extracted 30 minutes later, battered and exhausted but alive. On the journey back to the academy, Marcus stood on the observation deck watching the stars. Behind them, Haven's Rest burned as orbital. Bombardment finally cleansed the planet of the remaining swarm, but 36,000 people were alive because 7 predators had remembered what it meant to hunt for the pack. War Speaker. Thalnos found him there an hour later. You were right, the Drekmori said quietly. We were wrong about humans, about what makes a warrior. Marcus nodded but didn't turn around. Will anything change? Everything will change, Thalnos replied. The Academy Council has voted to create a new division, the Predator Corps, a unit designed for missions that require unconventional tactics. And you want me to lead it? We want you to help design it, along with your Hunt brothers. Marcus finally turned to face the alien who had shamed him months earlier. What made you change your mind? Thalnos was quiet for a long moment. Watching you fight, watching you lead. The civilized species have spent thousands of years trying to remove emotion from warfare. We thought it made us stronger. The reptilian warrior's yellow eyes dimmed slightly. But you showed us that emotion is not weakness. It is what gives strength meaning. It is what makes victory worth achieving. Marcus looked back out at the stars, thinking about everything that had led to this moment. His disgrace, his friendship with Kethvar, the Hunt Bond ceremony, and finally the battle that had proven what he had always believed.